starting our April 7th PEG Commission meeting. Starting with roll call, myself, Barry, Al, and Alyssa is not present. She notified us that she would not be here. And we have Tom sitting there as our city liaison.
I am present.
Next is pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next is approval of the agenda, which I sent out in my not timely fashion as typical, but it's pretty consistent with what we have been dealing with. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
To approve the agenda?
Okay, I'll support. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Then, minutes of the last meeting on March 3rd.
Thanks for printing them, I had them.
I usually do, I just,
Yeah.
since I'm printing other things, I print those as well. So, any additional comments on them? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve.
Okay, I will support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. I'll take some notes here myself. Okay, public comment. We have no public with us tonight. Correspondence. I don't have anything to add there. And move on to director's report. I really don't have much to say that's not otherwise already on the agenda. But, you know, as the acting director, things are moving as they have been. Again, without being on charter cable channels, which we will get to discussion on that. I just got back from a 2-week vacation, so got a little bit behind on getting some things posted up onto our web and YouTube channels, but got those caught up. I think that was Saturday I got those caught up after I got back. So things are continuing status quo from that perspective. Then moving on to old business, these are kind of our two ongoing items, charter spectrum status, and I had sent around when I received it, which was shortly after our last meeting, the revised agreement that charter has come back to us with, which is I've added under new business for us to discuss there. Otherwise, there's really nothing else under that to talk about under old business, and we can talk about the agreement under new business.
Okay.
Under reboot of our organization, we had a work session.
17 August.
Didn't we have or was that in our last meeting that we?
The last meeting we had set up 17 August, I think. That's what I had in the notes.
Okay, okay.
Which, I don't know what day of the week that is, but.
You sure August?
I'm sorry. April.
Okay,
April.
okay.
April. 17 April, yeah, no, not August.
Okay, I was like.
Things don't move.
That doesn't ring a bell, yeah. So I was confused.
17 April.
April, okay.
The other April.
And just, one of the action items I had was to get a meeting with the Tourism Authority, and I've talked with them, but I don't yet have a meeting set, mostly because I've been on vacation and things didn't work the week before, and this is really the first day back in the office after I got back, so, but I intend to get that done, knock on wood, or Formica, or whatever this material is, for that meeting. And I don't know if there's anything that you want to add on some of your follow-up items.
I mean, it was the, summarization of lengthy meeting tools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot out there, and then there's the guy here that has a podcast, his name escapes me. And then I was watching some of his videos, and I was gonna reach out to him, but I mean, there's just so many, and I don't think it would be that difficult, like, the meeting that I took before and did, it was a hour and a half long meeting, or 2 hours, it was a big meeting.
Yep.
So it doesn't surprise me that the best that could come up with was what it did, which wasn't very good, right? Because it doesn't really understand
Right,
what
right.
you're looking for, so you would have to feed it. It would take a human in the loop to feed it smaller chunks of like significant portions of like a city council meeting where there was, say for example, the vote that finally will take place on, short-term vacation rentals.
Right.
Right, like,
Yep.
feed it that 8-minute section and let it do its magic in terms of that. So it would take a human in the loop to do that, which I know is not ideal. But there's not that
we're
much
also
of it.
dealing with technology that's evolving quickly.
Yeah. So there are tools that could potentially do it.
Yep.
And like, we seek out these words or something
Yep.
and narrow the focus. I don't think it's that big of lift, but, there are tools available, and to your point, they're constantly, like.
Improving.
Yeah, I mean, the software I have always has pushes updates, like when I go back on, it has like a huge download of updates. So I don't think it would be that bad, but that was the extent of it. I just
Right,
kind of started
right.
poking around, and
But no, I
like
think
you, I went on
that's-
2 weeks
Yep.
vacation. As well.
Okay, then we can move on to the charter, or I guess technically Spectrum, agreement. So, yeah, to kind of go back, kind of the history of this is that when we initially approached Charter or Spectrum to get us back on air, their original quote was on the order of $100,000. They've basically come back and said there are no needed construction costs that need to be included into the agreement, which is the difference between this and the previous one. The reason for that is that previously we had asked them to relocate to the high school, middle school building, which is where our current equipment room is. In reaching out to the school district, they said, well, given the renovation status of Kennedy, that maybe we should look at just staying there, and this is the result of that second look at it. But it's still not inexpensive. There are two parts to it. One is kind of a one-time cost of approximately $6,000. That is basically kind of their charge to set things up for us. And then there's the ongoing monthly charge, which is approximately $600, $595. That is $45 a month. Let me pull up that page. It's $45 a month for the PEG video service. And then it's a $550 per month for the actual physical fiber line that would connect our head end to their system. Since this is Spectrum Business, they really kind of can charge whatever they want on this. It's not highly regulated like the consumer stuff is. And you think about it, it's technically what they're saying is a 50 megabit line for $550 a month, which is, in the scheme of things, if there were a competitive environment for something like this, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But they're the only game in town, and this is what they're saying it's going to cost. So I think my thought is at this point in time, since our organization was initially founded on the basis of kind of this cable access TV, and we've been off the air now for well over a year, and we have the funds to do this, that I think at this point in time, I would recommend that we pursue this and get back on the air. It's a 36-month agreement, and
36 month?
for the 36-month period of this agreement, and then I think at the end of that, we can reevaluate whether this aspect of what we do still makes sense at its price. But right now, since we don't really have the alternative stuff that we're talking about in place, it's like, from my perspective, the community's not getting what they used to have.
It's
They're
the only
not-
show in town.
It is. So those are my thoughts. I'm, interested in hearing your thoughts.
Is there, so that's you're making essentially a 24K commitment over 3 years.
Correct.
And is there, if you were to terminate, would there be a penalty, do you know?
Well, so the one piece of this is that currently we receive a revenue stream through Charter.
Oh,
There is
yeah.
a
So-
fee on each Charter subscriber of, I want to say 11 cents a month. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That is netting us, probably would net us about a third or half of what we would be spending
Per month?
per
Yeah.
month. So
An offset?
it offsets that, and if we really decided to give up on that, that would go away.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Makes sense. Okay.
you kind of really have to think of those together. So
Right,
yes, it is that, but it is offset with this
So now it's 15K?
12 to 15.
Yes. Okay, no, that's palatable. And it does leave, because the other, if you had to pay it all, that doesn't leave much room to create something else, right? Like,
Correct.
so,
Correct.
and this does. So and then I had thought through some things, or just when I saw your initial email that came out, and given what's on there, and you may have explored this in the past, and if I can bring it up with you now, if that's okay.
Yeah, no.
Like, I tuned into Traverse City's channel, which you can find online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's broadcast there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a lot of other programming that's got nothing to do with Traverse City.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like in the grand scheme of public affairs and public television, public access television, if there's like a catalog or if there's like a GitHub for programming or something like that, that you can pull down things. Like, for example, like river ecosystems or something like that might be of interest to people here, or steelhead fishing history in the Great Lakes.
I get stuff like that all the time. So yes, there's tons of content out there. The challenge I've always had is, are we the right platform for that?
Right.
Because if it's not about our community or coming from our community, and it's just content that one could acquire via
Right.
any mechanism, is that the best use of our limited resources? And then the other aspect of it is the way we've traditionally programmed is basically we program a 12-hour block, and then we repeat that twice a day for a week, 7 days. So basically I have, when I set up a week's programming, spend an hour to go through and do that. And given the volume of meetings we have, there's 12 hours of content that's generally coming in every week.
Okay.
So for us to
Add.
add, that then increases my workload.
Right.
And would reduce the predictability of it. Things would be on, oh, this will be on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday at this time, and something else will be that time. So that schedule and getting the schedule information out there becomes even more critical if it's changing every day.
Yeah.
So those are just, those
sure.
aren't reasons, well, I guess they're considerations. I'm not saying that there are reasons we can't do it, it's just considerations that there are costs or consequences in going beyond kind of a 12-hour block of content.
Right. Follow-up question.
Yep.
Are those programs, and I'll just use like sea lamprey control in the Great Lakes, right? Like, not specifically about Manistee, but super important to Manistee. When those things come across your desk or in your queue, are they free use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then secondly, like anybody who would want to, I forget the gentleman's name that does the podcast in town, James.
Yep.
He could theoretically provide that content to you, and because it's from a Manistee resident, he could, and it's in, he could put that on that channel as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So there is an opportunity to do a little bit of marketing locally if someone's doing something like that.
No, I mean, our essentially bylaws essentially state that if someone is providing local content, we're really obligated to squeeze it in somewhere, unless it's objectionable content. I mean, there are classifications where we could say no to things, but we would need to do that in a neutral, consistent basis.
Not because you didn't like it.
Right, exactly. So in general, since I've taken over kind of that operational side of things, I've basically made that a fairly, prior to me and my predecessor would occasionally, in my opinion, arbitrarily decide, oh, well, we'll do this and we'll do this, and there was no real rhyme or reason as to what got included other than things he liked.
Okay.
I didn't feel that was appropriate, so basically I eliminated all the external and basically everything that's come to me since then, I've tried to get on if possible.
Okay.
Now, the one that's kind of a border case is there's a square dancing club in Scottville that submits things, and they're technically not in Manistee. I figure Scottville's close enough.
I'm sure there's someone from Manistee that goes there.
That I've included them, but I've had things from Lansing and downstate that have said, can you show this? And I've said, no, that's not part of our policy.
Yeah, and even if there were, like for example, if a town hall from somebody who has represented the 101st House District or 2nd, like they could put that there if they had.
Yeah.
Okay, two questions.
Yeah.
When would it be ready for showtime, do you think? Like, what's the time frame? Did they give you any indication?
That I don't know.
Okay.
This is kind of the next step, and then we can start talking about a timeline from it.
And second question, and just a thought, is there anybody that could potentially partner on cost sharing on that monthly? I mean, there's no other use for it, like the school doesn't need it.
No.
Okay.
No.
And this would be it's like basically the city's line then, the city's fiber line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and there's no real, it would just be complicated to get into probably cost sharing to cover $250 worth of monthly fees.
Right.
Yeah, wouldn't be worth it. Okay. That's good. I like it. The fact that it's, I forgot all about the revenue stream.
Right.
Need to get more people on cable. Yeah. Let's see if I had any other. Does the school, maybe you told me this, does the school have their own internal channel that they're putting things out on?
No.
They would put it on here if they wanted. Okay. The school district.
Yeah.
Okay. And the library, do they ever do anything?
Mhm.
Okay. No, that's good. That answers my questions. That's,
And since you mentioned the library, that pops into my head. In Mason County, the library is the organization that kind of does this for Ludington.
okay.
So it's just interesting how different communities, different organizations kind of take a lead role in this. Whereas here we have a city commission, which is not necessarily the means that other communities do it.
You don't have any ability to do Nielsen ratings, do you?
Nope. Charter used to provide us, they internally can
Tell you how
monitor,
many people are.
but they stopped doing that a few years ago, so.
Okay. I mean, you could put a ticker, like, call for any questions or something like that. You put your number.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
No, that answers my question. That's good.
Okay.
I mean, I'm supportive of it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I think this was good discussion, so, you know,
What are the next steps for you as the chairperson?
well, I mean, the next step right now would be to make a motion to authorize me to execute the agreement. And then it's an electronically signed document, so I would do that tomorrow and then start having those conversations with both the school district and Spectrum as to kind of a scheduling thing. Because while construction is substantially complete, it's not complete yet.
So the room's not quite ready.
And it probably is enough for things to happen.
Yeah.
But again, those are details that I, you know, it's still technically a hard hat area, even if the room were completed, would they allow me to go in and move equipment in,
Yeah.
even though the building is still not occupied?
All right.
So, you know, things like that are questions to be worked out.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, finish this. Let's finish this.
Okay, so then I'll make the motion that we allow or authorize myself to execute this agreement with Spectrum Business to basically reconnect to the Spectrum network for the PEG channel on Charter Spectrum in the amount of $6,335 plus an ongoing 36-month commitment of $595.
I second the motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
No?
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So that brings us to the end of our formal agenda. It sounded like you had another comment to make.
Oh,
So we can
Yeah, just on
wrap things up.
the 17th meeting,
Yes.
which is just want to make sure I have it. Thursday, the 17th. What do you think some key deliverables are out of that meeting to move us forward significantly enough to start talking about either a contract or building or procuring or whatever that is?
I think that is, the deliverable is,
What is it? Yeah.
really, it is. I mean, we've been
Yeah,
essentially
exactly.
doing research. I think we're to bring back our research and then in that discussion come up with, okay, now we know, how are we gonna start executing?
Yes.
And is that through hiring somebody? Is it through doing it pieces ourselves to potentially get us further down the road where we then may need to hire somebody to fill in gaps? Really what is that process?
And I was just, when you're telling me this, right, and I know you were a former software guy,
Right,
I think. And maybe you know enough about the amount of work that's involved and the next steps? Or do you think outside counsel would be somebody like to bounce questions off? Like, if we wanted to do this, what would that take? And if that is the case, is that appropriate to have somebody like that at that meeting that knows how to build and execute?
I think at this meeting, I have enough expertise in the area to get us to the point. But I think what it's gonna come down to is, we don't have a lot of dollars.
Right.
So therefore, most things won't even be options.
Yeah,
Once we
like
start
that thing you were saying.
talking about, so therefore, I think as we just walk through the different scenarios, it will become clear as to what is available that we can afford. And there won't be a lot of big options on that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand completely,
Yep.
but, because hosting is free, right? And then it would just be, like, if we were to contract, or we couldn't do it ourselves, right? If, like, not on Wix or something like that.
Right.
Like, the input, the calendar function is the most difficult part, like, that
Yep.
administrivia of that, okay.
Or, well, from your perspective,
Yeah.
that's the most complex. I think the things you're working on are the most complex.
yeah.
So, and ultimately, it's just tying them all together in ways that don't seem completely disjointed. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I see what I was doing as definitely a phase two function, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, getting like city partner organizations on the calendar is phase one, and then two is like the other things, and then three is not having to go to Facebook to find out where the antique boat show is, for example,
Right.
which I don't want to.
But again, that's an important part of that discussion, is that phasing.
Yeah.
and making sure that we're on the same page on that.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. So then, we have that work session on the 17th. Remind me what time?
Did you have it, Tom, by chance?
You know, that was one of the things I was just looking at on the city calendar. I do not have that on the city calendar that day.
I mean, maybe, I hope I didn't just pull it out of thin air. I had it here in my notes. Oh, wait a minute. Look at the 21st, right? Would that be, that's probably a Monday. Yeah, that's a Monday.
Yep.
And it's also, it's the day after Easter. Do you have that one?
I do not.
You have that?
I don't have it on my calendar, but it's in the minutes, so I trust that.
Okay, I don't know where I was getting the 17th from.
So on the 21st, it's in the minutes?
Yes, the minutes
Okay.
say that would be our follow-up.
Yeah, okay.
But we didn't identify a time, or at least we don't have a record of that. So, anyway,
I'm good.
a little bit of legwork to pin down the exact date and time. I think the date is set, but the time, and then getting it to Tom so that we can be on the schedule for this room.
Yeah. If I were to look, I'm looking at the city website, and it does look like the 21st is completely open, so.
Okay. Are you good for 6 PM, or would you like it early or late? I can't do much early. I have a new job, so I can't really.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll just say
So
6, and I'll let
Let's
Alyssa
assume
know.
6 and basically push that out to Alyssa and make sure that that works for her.
Yeah, are you all right with that, Tom? 6 PM?
So we're basically tentatively saying
Easter
6 PM, the 21st.
Yeah.
Obviously, that could change if
Okay.
any of the three of us on the commission.
Something happens.
Something happens and can't make it, but
Yeah,
adjust like always.
okay. So is someone gonna let me know to reserve the room then? Someone will?
Reserve it for 6
Yes.
on the 21st.
Okay.
And if something comes up, we'll have to reschedule, but as of right now. And then our next regular meeting is 6 on May 5th. Cinco de Mayo. then with that, I think we are at the end of our meeting, and it is 6:32. So call an adjournment at 6:32. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Adjourned?
Yep.